Yay!
I'm Mel.
And I'm Marissa.
And today we are going to be talking about mental health. Just to be honest, after the 3 hours we just spent trying to get technology to work, I need a mental health day.
You need mental health to recover from the mental health that you've just been trying to record.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so for the last 3 hours we have sat here trying to get recordings to work. 3 hours. We could have given up, but no, we are dedicated to you. We are so dedicated.
If that doesn't prove dedication, I don't know what would.
No.
To be honest.
Oh, no. So, Marissa.
Yes.
You came up with this episode, so take the lead.
All right. To start off, I have a question for you, Mel.
Yes.
If you were going to create one Horcrux, what object would it be, and where would you hide it?
So, because I've had the past 3 hours to think about this, I had a necklace, and it was this really cool necklace, and I've lost it, so it's not great, but I'd hide it next time instead of losing it. So it would have been my necklace, which was volcanic rock. It was very pretty.
Ooh.
It was black, very pretty. So it would have been that, and I would hide it in my childhood home in the garden, deep, deep in the ground, like 6 foot under.
Any particular reason why 6 feet?
Because I'm figuring no one's going to dig it up.
Aha. Unless they're digging a grave, and in that case, there's other problems that they have rather than just looking for your Horcrux.
Yeah, I don't think they're looking for my Horcrux at that point.
So mine, at first, I was like, oh, I would put it in a Cursed Child book because nobody's gonna actually want to pick it up.
But you need to hide it somewhere significant.
Exactly. So then I was looking around my room, and there is a, are you familiar with Pokemon at all?
Yes.
My cousin crocheted me a little Pikachu, and it is so adorable. No one would ever want to destroy it, but I would also, hide it somewhere in my mother's basement because there's so much stuff that you probably wouldn't be able to find it ever.
So it'll be hidden within your Pokemon toy in the basement.
Exactly. And even if they found it, they would be like, oh, I can't destroy this. This is too freaking adorable.
Good
so that's my thing.
That's such a good plan. I like it.
Thank you. I liked it a lot, too.
That's a good topic.
That's why I chose it.
But you would have to say, making Horcruxes, there's probably something, I don't want to say not right, but, there's some issues that need to be sorted out somewhere.
I would think so. I mean, a lot of people have a fear of death, so the whole not being able to be killed is appealing, but I don't think I'd want to kill something in order to stop myself from being able to be killed.
Yeah, it's just like...
it seems counterintuitive to the whole not liking death thing.
Yeah, it's like, it's natural not to want to die, but to go to that extreme is just... It's clear you've got a phobia of death. Of your own death, specifically, because you're not scared of killing other people.
Yeah, you're like, other people can die, that's fine. I'm just worried about myself.
Pretty much.
I'm worried about number one.
Yes. Aren't we all?
Well, a lot of people are selfless, but more people are more about just protecting themselves than anybody else, so.
Yes. Example 1, Lord Voldemort.
He is the prime example. You can use him for just about anything.
Pretty much. So, I believe today we are going to be discussing mental health in the Wizarding world.
Indeed. The reason that got me thinking about it, I was going through different things on Facebook, and I follow a few different Harry Potter Facebook pages, and they just post different things, like, most of the stuff I find is from Tumblr, because they just take screenshots and just post it all over the place.
Yeah.
And the one that got me thinking about mental health a lot was, it was shared on a Facebook page that I follow, and it said, after Fred died, George developed a line of cheering chocolates, nightmare nougat, and memory mallows for himself and others with PTSD. Eventually, he expanded the line to safe, silent sparklers for those with sound sensitivities or triggers, and trigger talismans, which vibrate and block out sound when a trigger is said so that the wearer can leave. And I think it's really important for people to realize that while they talk about wizards and witches not being able to be affected by muggle ailments like the common cold or the flu, I don't think that expands to mental illnesses.
Definitely not. Like, Harry definitely has PTSD. Like, very...
Oh, for sure.
Clearly, in particularly after Goblet of Fire.
Oh, yeah. When he, he talks about, Dudley teases him about him having nightmares.
Yeah.
And so obviously he's having night terrors from, his experiences, and it really affected him. And it affected the way that he interacted with Ron and Hermione when he finally did get to the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix, and he just goes off because he has had no one to talk to about all the stuff that he's been going through.
Yeah. And then you see it again after Sirius dies. There's obvious, depression, and he's unable to really deal with his grief. He doesn't know how to.
And the thing is, he grew up in such an abusive household that he probably mostly, whenever something upset him, just kind of kept it in because he knew no one cared there.
Definitely.
He didn't know how to express himself in a healthy way when something that big happened to him.
I agree. He doesn't have hasn't learned to have coping mechanisms. And it's amazing how he does cope with some things when you think about it, but then obviously there's some things he just doesn't know how to cope with. I really like Sirius's death because you see a lot of it in the Half-Blood Prince. You see the effects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just... I think I really like at the beginning of the Half-Blood Prince movie, they show kind of a flashback to after everything happened at the Ministry, and how, or maybe it's even at the end of
I think it's
Order of the Phoenix.
The end of Order of the Phoenix.
Because it shows, Daniel Radcliffe is an amazing actor, just, showing that, that 1,000-mile stare where you just can't believe what just happened to you.
Yeah, because
and trying to process something like that at that age is just, I don't know how people deal with it. I really don't.
Maybe it's both, because, I know what you're talking about. I'm trying to think if it's at the opening because of, but I know the scene you're talking about, and all the photographers are taking photos of him, and he's just staying there next to Dumbledore.
Yeah.
But, what concerns me is there doesn't seem to be any counselling or any facilities for mental health in the Wizarding World. We don't really see it in St. Mungo's, except the Longbottoms are there and they're just being looked after.
Right, and that's just, the memory, the long-term memory ward. I'm not even sure what to really call it. And, they talk about after Cedric's death, Dumbledore gets up and makes that whole big long speech, but he doesn't really, there's nothing for him to say, hey, if you need to talk about this, there are people you can talk to. Whenever a death or a suicide or something happens at a high school, they're always there are counselors if you need to talk. They don't really have that equivalent as far as we're aware in the Wizarding World, and I wonder why that is.
Yeah, definitely. You never hear it mentioned. And, come on, considering everything that goes on in their world, you would really think you could make a Mozart out of being a psychologist.
They could really use it. they've gone through quite a lot, especially with, you know, the wars that they've been through.
Definitely.
And it just blows my mind that it's not really ever addressed. Like, hey, these kids lost somebody that he was just murdered outright, and you don't think they need to talk about it to a professional? But then I also feel like the Wizarding World is really behind the times. And,
oh, yes.
Like, they talk about, they mention in Chamber of Secrets, like, hearing voices inside your own head is not a good sign. And I feel like mental illness is becoming more of a topic and more something people are feeling comfortable to talk about in our world. So if the Wizarding World is, like, behind the times in social aspects, is it not acceptable to talk about things like PTSD, night terrors, anything like that?
You bring up a really good point, because they essentially tell Harry it's not a good sign, just shut up and don't let anyone know. Like,
Pretty
like
much,
that stiff upper lip kind of mentality where you just don't talk about it. No one can know how you're feeling. Like, we just don't, no.
Yeah, he was like, you think I should have told them that I was hearing these voices? Like, no, it's not good to hear voices that nobody else can hear.
So, yeah, just shut up and keep your head down.
Yeah, and it's no good.
I know Hermione says it in the movie, but I'm trying to think who says it in the book.
I'm pretty sure it's Ron, but I can
So I'm just thinking,
double check.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, you know, you'd like to think Hermione has a bit more wherewithal, but at the same time, she's 12 at that point.
And she's still trying to, like, find her place in the Wizarding World because, you know, she comes from Muggles, so she doesn't know. Like Harry finds out all this new stuff all the time about the world that he's been introduced to, and she's kind of in the same boat as him, having to kind of navigate between what she knows and what she's learning about.
Definitely. Having said that, she seems a lot better equipped than Harry. She's always reading and learning, and that's probably a sign of anxiety.
You think that's her social tick?
Yeah, she has
going to the library?
Well, that, but, I mean, she does all this research, so she knows what's going to happen. She's planned, she understands what's going on around her. She can't have the unknown. She needs to know. Because,
yeah, I guess I can understand that.
It would be a compulsion. It's like, I need to know this. I need this information. And if I don't have this information, because she gets quite antsy if she doesn't have the answers. Like, if the library fails her or something.
Well, like, we were just reading in Half-Blood Prince, where she says something about the library had failed her for the first time in living memory. Like, she couldn't find anything about Horcruxes, and she took it almost as a personal insult that the library couldn't offer her an explanation for this question that they had.
Yes. And now she doesn't have the answer, and that frustrates her. She has to have that answer.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hermione needs some counselling on how to calm down and de-stress. She's quite tightly strung.
Well, especially in third year, when she was taking all those classes, like, first of all, why did she feel the need to take so many?
Because she needs to know everything.
Does she, though?
She thinks she does.
She's an overachiever. Like, I understand. I sometimes can be an overachiever, but, man.
Now, we're not saying that being an overachiever is a mental health problem. Just to be clear,
no,
we're just saying Hermione
not.
is an overachiever, which no doubt feeds into all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it was really weird. And the thing is that the teachers let her. Like, no one's gone to Hermione, we think you need to calm down. Let's look at what you want to study and, you know, decide what's practical.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't need Muggle studies, you live with Muggles.
Right. Like, she was like, well, but I want to study them from wizarding perspective.
It's like, that's not good enough.
Do you, though?
Yeah, like, do you really?
Yeah. It's very strange.
Yeah, and it's like, if you want to know the wizarding perspective, just ask Ron questions.
Oh, I did find it. Ron said in the book, Harry asks, "Do you think I should have told him about the voice I heard?" "No," said Ron without hesitation. "Hearing voices no one else can hear isn't a good sign, even in the wizarding world."
There we go. So, yeah, I thought it seemed more like something Ron would say because of that.
Yeah, but they did a lot of that in the movies, though. Take stuff Ron said and attributed it to Hermione, and that's one of the things that really bothers me.
Yes, which feeds into the people who've only seen the movie thinking Ron's an idiot.
Yeah, he's
actually quite smart.
Yeah.
But anyways, we are digressing on that point.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But, yeah, no, having Ron say that definitely makes more sense in my mind, because that's the Wizarding World perspective. Hermione would have the Muggle World perspective, which in the 90s probably was more in line with we don't talk about it. But
yeah,
still.
And people talk about mental illness being more prevalent now, and why is that? And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I just think it's more accepted, and you can get more help for it now than you could a couple decades ago.
Yeah, it's acceptable to talk about it.
And it's kind of, going back to, like, Harry's experience, I'm surprised that he came in to Hogwarts so well adjusted for what all he went through with the Dursleys.
Yeah, all the abuse and being locked in a cupboard under the stairs. Like, he should have some serious social issues, like interaction issues. He had no friends at school because they're all scared of Dudley.
Yeah, there's a post that kind of goes along with that. The original post was by it says Bert Macklin Jr. said, "Harry Potter was such a pure child. He went to a ghost's death day party. He talked to Myrtle because she was lonely. He set a snake free because it was unhappy. He genuinely was friends with Luna even though people thought she was weird. He attended Aragog's funeral. He met some lanky kid on the train, and his immediate reaction was to buy the whole trolley to share with him. And then when they got to Hogwarts and Malfoy was talking crap about this kid he met a few hours ago, he was like, 'Oh, no, you didn't. I'm gonna protect this one.'"
Definitely.
Like,
Harry is so good-hearted and pure. I like that word, pure.
Yeah, and for everything he went through, he's pretty resilient after everything he went through. And then we see him in Cursed Child, and he's halfway decently adjusted to, adult life. It's kind of a miracle.
I totally agree. It's amazing how well he turned out, because, by 11, you're pretty much on a path of who you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry always decided to be the best, as in good.
As in capital G, good.
Yes.
Good guy. Yeah.
Good guy. So I'm really quite proud of Harry. But I think we have to look at other characters. Moaning Myrtle, for example. And her constant state of depression.
Well, she is a ghost. So I don't think she can really mentally progress, because she's kind of stuck in the state that she was in when she died. She was unhappy when she died. She had been bullied minutes before, and she was in the bathroom crying because of being bullied.
Yes, but
and
I don't think it's too far to say that her unhappiness goes beyond just being kind of unhappy. She seems downright miserable about life, even undead life. All aspects of anything that involve living in some capacity. Yeah,
and she's very sensitive about death and being dead, and I just think it kind of speaks to, you need to watch what you say to people that have been through things. Definitely. Because you might not think your words can bring back bad memories, but they really can.
Exactly. She was in such a state, and now she's forever in that state, and you just think, that poor girl. Yeah, she's a hormonal teenager, but that poor girl. Well, she was a hormonal teenager. She dead.
Oh.
That's so mean. I'm a
mean
person.
I just hated every time Ron interacted with her, he had to, make a joke or something. And it's I don't know if that's, him just being a jerk, or if that's him, being uncomfortable with the fact that a crying ghost is hanging around, you know?
Yeah, and it's hard when you're a young preteen and early teenage boy.
Mm-hmm.
But, definitely poor Moaning Myrtle. I always feel so bad for her. Except when she's being kind of awful. And relishing in pain.
Well, she didn't always relish in pain, because she did feel really bad for Malfoy. She did try to comfort Malfoy in the scene before Harry used a whole bunch of dark magic. She was trying to comfort him. So she's not always happy when something goes wrong. I mean, she was happy when Hermione was a cat, but she also does have some redeeming qualities, even if it's only with Malfoy. But she also did help Harry with, like, the clue in Book 4, and did help him by telling him how she died in Book 2.
Agreed.
So she has some redeeming qualities. Like, yeah, she can be like any other teenager, mopey and then making fun of people, but she does have some redeeming actions as well.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. But she is so stuck in a perpetual state of depression.
Yeah, but
that would be hard. Like,
yeah, it
being
would be
depressed forever.
Well, that's how I think a lot of depressed people feel. They feel like it will never end.
I agree.
And I think that's a kind of a good representation of that.
Yep, it's just go on and on forever. I think I touched on it a bit jokingly, but Voldemort definitely has issues from day one when we meet him at the orphanage.
Mm-hmm.
I really think he displays the traits of a callous and unemotional child, also known as a child psychopath, but we're not meant to call them that. And I think he could have really benefited in the wizarding world from just like a little bit, someone to really care for him and be like, hey Tom, how are you? Let's talk about this. Yes, I know you've just discovered your father wasn't a wizard, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're okay. You were still valuable as a half-blood.
Right, and I'm not even, like, we learned that people did kind of fawn over him. But I think it was, like, the talent he had, and especially with Slughorn, what he could get out of it, rather than just caring about him developing as a well-adjusted person.
Definitely agree. That didn't help him change. It actually probably helped him go on the path he did go on, because people were supporting him along it, so to speak. They were going, oh, you're so clever, you're so smart.
And that just fed his ego to, I'm going to be better than everybody else. Yeah. So there.
And as he got older, obviously, he developed his phobia of dying. I'm going to call it a phobia. It's a phobia at the point that you've created 6 Horcruxes knowingly and 1 unknowingly.
Right. But. Yeah, because they talked about the fact that just 1 would be sufficient. Why would you want to make more than 1? It's
safeguards for his safeguards.
You always got to have a backup for your backup.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned.
And Voldemort took that to such an extreme
that it made his soul so unstable that it just kind of started to disintegrate and just broke itself apart.
Yes, that is actually really good imagery for, like, you know, stretching yourself too thin, like I don't want to say letting things get you down, but not seeking help and trying to make yourself better. Not fighting back against issues that are going on. Because that's what happened. He was like, I fear death. I'm not going to just learn to come to accept as part of life. No, I'm going to go and try to get rid of this threat.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure that I can't die.
Definitely. It's quite disturbing way to do it. And as I said, maybe if, you know, had some counselors at Hogwarts, he could have turned out okay.
But alas, it was not so.
No, definitely. I think you're right. I think the wizarding world doesn't acknowledge it and doesn't have methods to cope with it. They just stiff up a lip, brush it under the carpet, move on.
Well, that kind of, I want to talk about Ginny a little bit, because she went through a ton her first year.
Yes.
Being, possessed by Voldemort's kind of a big deal. And at the end of the book, Dumbledore's like, yeah, go up to the hospital wing and Madame Pomfrey will make you some hot chocolate and it'll be all better. Like, she just went through a traumatic experience where the darkest wizard of all time took over her body and made her release the monster of Slytherin. Like, that hot chocolate's not gonna fix it.
I totally agree. Like, she really needs to be sat down with somebody to talk about it.
Yeah, and as far as we know, she didn't get to do, like, maybe her and Hermione talked about it, because her and Hermione seem to be pretty good friends, like, off narration. But I don't know if she ever, well, I don't know, I was going to say off screen, but if it's a book, you can't really have off screen.
Yeah. I like off narration.
Just, like, thank you. It's a thing now. But I don't know if she ever got to, like, talk about her experience. I know she talks about it a little bit when she's asking Harry, like, when they're trying to determine if Harry has been possessed by Voldemort or not. But I don't think she ever really gets to talk about what actually happened to her. And I feel like reducing it to, oh, chocolate will make it better, is really downplaying the emotional, almost torture she went through.
I definitely agree with that. It's like not offering the proper support, which, Dumbledore should. He is a teacher. And it is part of his job to look after and protect his students. And it's kind of like he failed there, like physical protection. Well, he failed on physical protection too, but he had kind of been removed from the school at that point, so we can't totally blame him.
Not completely, but he did make the call at the end to go have some hot chocolate, it'll be all better.
Yeah. So, definitely need better controls at Hogwarts with mental health. Yeah, because I totally agree with the whole Ginny thing. She went through some serious trauma, and it comes up in later books. Like, she talks about it, going, I know what it's been like to be possessed by Voldemort. And people forget that.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever really get good resolution, because we know how it feels when Harry is possessed by Voldemort.
Yes.
It's pain beyond endurance, and he just wants to die. Like, how did it feel for her? Was it just that she has no memory? Did it hurt her? Like, I don't think so, because how would he take control of her enough to have her open the chamber and all the stuff that she did if she's in too much pain to, like, move? But that's always been a kind of a gap in the reasoning. Like, does it hurt when you're possessed, or does it not? Does it depend? I know there's an issue with the Voldemort possessing Harry because of, the piece of his soul inside of him and all the love that's protecting Harry. It's just, it's very, there's a big gap that I don't think we ever really get explained.
I agree. But yeah, with the Voldemort possessing Ginny, there's so much that goes unexplained, as you said, and it's kind of sad. Like, I know she's not the main character, but it would be nice to know, like, what she did. I don't think she ever got over it by the looks of, like, what happens in the books, but it would be nice to hear, like, the support and everything she got, to know that people were supporting her, because Harry doesn't really afterwards. You don't see much of him.
Right.
Like, they're not really around each other again until book 4 book 5 is when they start sort of spending time together again.
Yeah, like, she's an ancillary character in books 3 and 4, but she doesn't really start to become a prominent and actually, like, get her own story until book 5.
Definitely, where she starts to grow, obviously, and becomes part of the Silver Trio.
Gotta love you some Silver Trio.
Yep. I'm trying to think of what other characters. Because the thing is, it's so not talked about is the issue. Like, I suppose, Tonks in book 6, her whole thing with Lupin, and she's obviously completely heartbroken and doesn't know how to move on from him.
Yeah, well, we don't really know what happened in the breakup. So I think
what we do know, Lupin left her because he is a werewolf and, he didn't want her to suffer. And too old, yes. Those were his reasons. So, and she's like, I don't care kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know if that rises to, like, I know it's when you lose someone you love that it can be very debilitating. But I just don't know if it rises to the level of being a mental disorder or a mental illness.
Look,
because she does end up essentially getting over it. I don't know.
Well, no, she ends up with Lupin. She gets what she wants.
Well, that's how she gets over it, because she got what she wanted.
I think we gotta look at depression, because depression isn't always constant. I definitely think she was depressed.
Yeah, because she lost control of her ability to change herself, and her Patronus changed and all of that.
Which I think is actually a good symbolism of the manifestation. Like, you get depressed and you physically cannot do things. You struggle to get up in the morning. You struggle to look after yourself, and that's what happened to her. Personally, I think, should have just been like, I'm young and pretty, I don't need you. But hey, she was very much in love with him.
Yeah.
And
I can understand that.
Yeah. So I think it is actually, Tonks is a good example because of the physical manifestations, which really reflects the real world where there's physical manifestations. Like, people get depressed, they don't look after themselves, they get sick physically. So.
Yeah, and I had a discussion with my supervisor this week about things that upset you, and she just told me, you're too young to let anybody steal your joy. And I think that's kind of important. Like, don't let anybody else dictate whether or not you're happy with yourself. I know that's tough, but you can't let what somebody else does or doesn't do determine whether or not you're happy. You gotta be happy for you.
Yes, and that...
Because you're the one that has to live with yourself.
Exactly, that is hard to, put into practice, but it's something good to keep in the back of your mind and to try to put into practice. To think to yourself, this person has done this and made me unhappy. And instead of going, I'm not going to be unhappy, thinking, well, why am I letting them control me? Why am I letting their actions control my reactions?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, poor Tonks. But she got what she wanted in the end. Shouted at him.
Shouted at him and got married and
had a kid.
A baby.
A baby. And then they died. Whoops.
Yeah, sad day.
Sad day.
Oops.
I hope there was some serious counselling after the Battle of Hogwarts. Like, all those kids who stood back, like, the Creevies died, didn't they?
We know for sure that Colin died.
Colin died, that's right.
I don't think we know whether... I don't think there is a report on whether or not Dennis survived.
Yeah.
But Colin was supposed to be there anyway. He was supposed to have gone home.
Exactly.
He wasn't old enough.
Yes. But I'm sure he's not the only one who snuck back.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
He's the one, obviously, that is highlighted.
Most of the Hufflepuffs and the Gryffindors tried to stay behind.
Yes.
To the point where McGonagall had to go through and sort out who was old enough and who wasn't.
Yes. So, that's like a pretty traumatic event, the Battle of Hogwarts. And, yeah, I'd like to think that some healers from St. Mungo's with psych training turned up afterwards.
Or that it started then.
Yeah.
If people come in and they're, like, suffering from what they don't know is, like, a panic attack, maybe that would make the wizards realize, oh, this is a thing that we need to, like...
look out for.
Address, because it's a problem, because a lot of people were affected.
I totally agree.
I think that's important. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a really heavy topic.
So sorry.
So sorry. Yeah, at the end of the show, I'll point you in the direction of some links and things if you need any help. Just thought I'd throw that in there as we talk about these heavy topics. Sirius is another one who I think has a lot of issues that aren't properly looked at.
Yes, and it makes me very upset that we only have one prison in the Wizarding world. Everyone who's ever been sentenced to any kind of incarceration automatically goes to being surrounded by Dementors.
Yeah, like that's like
not
pretty heavy.
Right, like, I think in book 6, Mundungus gets arrested for impersonating an Inferi or something. Or even just if somebody steals something, like they have to go spend however long surrounded by soul-sucking demons. Like, that's seems harsh.
Yeah, Azkaban seems like the life is prison, but you get people sent there for 6 months. Sturgis Podmore, I think his name was he the one who got caught in the mystery? He's like, it's 6 months in Azkaban. It's just like, that's like a life sentence, really.
Right, and when they remove Hagrid, they send him to Azkaban, and it's like, he even says that he wasn't there for that long, but he would go to bed hoping he would die.
Yeah, like, that is some seriously dark...
That's rough. Like, I don't think anybody deserves to be... I don't think anybody is so bad that they deserve that, aside from maybe Voldemort. But even then, it's like... It seems like extreme like cruel and unusual punishment.
I agree. Azkaban is bad. And imagine that being the threat. Don't F up or we're going to send you to Azkaban.
Like Harry's terrified that accidentally blowing up his aunt is going to land him in prison. And that's before he even knows what Dementors are.
Yes, it's like...
He's already afraid to go to prison for accidentally performing magic, and he doesn't even know what would be waiting for him there.
Yeah.
When he did. Like, he knew that Hagrid was scared to go back, but he didn't know the extent of why.
Yes, and you gotta think about the justice system. They don't have an idea of rehabilitation, obviously. You're not gonna get rehabilitated in Azkaban. If anything, you're gonna get worse.
Yeah, you're just going to be more messed up than when you went in.
Yes, which is definitely what happened to Sirius.
Right, and what I was going to say about Sirius is he went in there when he was, 20? 21?
21. He's the oldest of the Marauders.
Okay, so he went in there when he was 21. He got out when he was 33. He was in there for 12 years. We all know. He did his waiting. 12 years of it.
In Azkaban!
In Azkaban! Yeah. And I know a lot of people, harp on Sirius about being immature, but he didn't really have a chance to be an adult.
And if anything...
And to mature.
If anything, he probably regressed.
Right, because all he had to think about was the bad things in his life, and those are pretty bad. Like, your best friends died, and all the, his parents were terrible, and all the things he went through. Like, we don't know the extent of what he went through at school, but he lost his brother, and all of these things, and it just kills me that he didn't have a chance to get better and to really live freely.
I totally agree. And being stuck in that house.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people will talk about being back in some place where a trauma happened can be debilitating in and of itself.
And while it's not looked at, I would say there was a lot of trauma there. He would not have been happy there. That's why he ran away.
Mm-hmm.
And now,
they don't really talk about whether or not he was physically abused, but being around people that are constantly, spouting blood purity, that's traumatizing too.
Yes, definitely. And especially, I'd say he was not. Well, we know he wasn't favoured because he was in Gryffindor and he's had all these friends who weren't approved of by the family. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine what his mother would have said if she had known Lupin was a werewolf?
She would have lost her mind that Dumbledore would let in someone like that.
Yeah, and that her son would dare befriend them.
Well, he dared become a Gryffindor, so...
Yeah, he was obviously a troubled child in her eyes.
Well, he also did stick up a whole bunch of, posters of women in bikinis all over his wall, so...
I love that so much. It's just like
it's so
defiance.
Good.
It's just like, yeah, Ma, look at that.
It's like, not only are they chicks in bikinis, they're muggle chicks in bikinis, because they weren't moving posters, they were stationary.
I wonder if wizards have bikinis. Well, witches, I should say. Actually, wizards might like wearing bikinis too.
Yeah, no judgment.
Well, there is no judgment. They wear Archie at the Quidditch World Cup in the ladies' nightgown.
Yeah, I'm just saying from me, there's no judgment on what you want to wear.
I just love that so much.
Yeah,
and it's a much lighter topic than mental health because it's not a mental disorder to wear clothes assigned to the other gender.
Just whatever. Clothes don't have gender. Just wear what you want, guys. Girls, everybody.
Wear the floral nightgown to the Quidditch Cup. Do it.
You do you.
Definitely.
I mean, because they're wearing robes anyway. It's not that far off from a women's nightgown. Exactly. Robes are basically fancier nightgowns. So, I don't know why that guy was freaking out. I'm just saying.
Yep, I agree. Are there any other characters you'd like to cover in this rather heavy topic?
I feel like a lot of characters went through less trauma than the ones that we've discussed. I mean, I know Hermione had to face a lot of racism, but I don't think it affected her too much.
No,
she seemed
had a
to deal.
Network.
Yeah, she took it in stride. So, and I don't think there's anybody else really that, unless you want to talk about. Lupin's a little bit different than mental health because it's really a physical affliction that also affects his mental state when he's in that other body.
Definitely. It's more of a metaphor for bloodborne disease and things like that.
Yeah, wasn't it written as a metaphor for
HIV,
AIDS, I think?
Yes.
HIV/AIDS, yeah.
Yes, it was. Which in and of itself is a very heavy topic for another time.
Yes. We don't need too much heavy right about
now. No. Well, if there's no one else, we should probably move along. I think we kind of combined the fan topic in, but we might highlight that quickly about people sort of creating their own headcanon about how the wizarding world deals with these issues.
Yeah, it was the two that I read.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool, like people as fans going into this world and, improving upon bits, like creating their own headcanons to make it a little bit better for them.
Mm-hmm.
To make a safe place.
Yeah. And I feel like Harry Potter as a whole can be a safe place for a lot of people.
Agreed. And that's, I think, why we all love it so much. I think for people, when, fans go through mental health issues, Harry Potter is one of the places they can turn to be comforted, to escape for a bit.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Oh, you're making me feel a bit heavy here, Marissa.
Sorry.
God.
It was something I felt like we needed to try to flesh out. I felt like it.
Oh,
it was
no,
important.
I definitely agree. And I definitely think we'll get feedback on this from some people, and with their
Hopefully.
thoughts and opinions.
Yeah.
Maybe revisit it sometime.
Maybe.
But in the interest then of being a bit lighter, would you like to play Random Ships?
Of course I would.
Yay!
I've wanted to play this for so long, and now my dream is coming true.
So, Random Ships is the segment where we build a boat and set to sail on the Black Lake to see if it sinks or sails. I think we could just go Random Ships with any characters from the Harry Potter universe.
Oh, man.
So...
Okay. Well, I think I'm ready.
You think you're ready?
I think I am. I don't think you'll be surprised, but I'm ready.
Oh no, I know who it is, damn it. Oh well.
Do you want me to change it? I can change it.
In for a penny, in for a pound. 3, 2, 1. Harry
Ernie
Potter.
Macmillan. Oh no! No! Actually, this is good. This is good. Because the two of them have had good times and bad times.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like after the battle, because Ernie survives, in case anybody was wondering, that's my headcanon, that he survives, along with other things, but we'll get to that at some other point in this season. And I think he would come up to Harry after the battle and just start talking his ear off about nonsense, because that's kind of what Ernie does when he's nervous. He just kind of likes to kind of talk about himself the entire time that he's interacting with somebody. Like when he kept just talking about how much he was studying for the owls back in 5th year. And while Harry can be a good listener, I just don't think this is going to sail. I think he's going to walk away.
Yes, well, I did a quick search for...
Oh, no.
Fan fiction.
Fan fiction? Of course you did.
Only one that doesn't have so many tags that I had to just keep scrolling and scrolling is in a completely different language, and I think it might be Russian or Czech or something. So I'm just about to just dump the summary into Google Translate, because that's...
Oh, this is fun. Those are always the best.
There's a person...
They don't ever translate well.
There's a person on YouTube who sings songs translated by Google, so she puts it through 20 times, and
so good.
And uses the best lines. Come on, okay, copy, paste. Harry Potter can go on dates with whomever he wants. Severus will make sure that he is someone suitable. But it's got a pairing. It's got a pairing for both Snape and Ernie Macmillan with Harry. So it's only one chapter. Give me a second. I'm going to throw it now through the whole story through and just give you an idea.
Oh man.
Because
it sounds
what it's about.
Like Snape is his guardian and gets to pick who he ends up with. That's very strange.
No, I think wait, what was it?
Because you said and Severus will make sure that someone's suitable.
That he is someone suitable. So I think it's like a Harry and Snape pairing.
Ew.
Sorry, just copying this, and I'm... But yeah, that's the only one with Harry and it's Harry and Ernie, but it sounds more like... Oh, it's Polish, by the way. The story is from Poland. So it's just translating. Right. That's the... Yeah. It's thinking... Oh, it exceeds the character limit. Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm gonna fix this. Let's just get a couple of paragraphs then. Oh, frick. Google Translate's fun.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's always good.
Okay. How about I just get the top paragraph here?
Were you on fanfiction.net? Is that where you found it?
No, Archive of Our Own.
Oh, okay.
Severus stared with hatred at the owl who sat on Harry Potter's shoulder, the Defense Against Black Magic teacher. The same owl for several days brought Potter letters from the new admirer. Harry smiled and unclipped the letter from the animal's leg. Then he tore open the envelope and began to read. Severus screwed up the sausage so hard he jumped and fell on the table. I'm guessing that's meant to be it jumped.
What? Yeah.
Director, it looks like unfortunately I will not be able to accompany you today in the Three Brooms. Ernie invited me to dinner, so next time, okay? Harry did not even look at the man, focused on the list. The second sausage joined the first one. Of course, Professor, Snape hissed. Satisfied, Harry did not seem to notice anything strange about the man next to him. So I think Harry's meant to be a professor. That is what I'm getting
Possibly.
here.
It's very strange.
Some dodgy translations going on. So yes, apparently him and Ernie have a thing in that story, and Snape's jealous. So
Nice.
for anybody keen to filter that all through Google Translate, who happens to read Polish, I will put a link to that in the show notes for this one. I'm not even going to try to say the title, except I totally am.
Do it.
Trurzy, Rezi, Goody, Severus Snape, Rojo Noel, or in brackets, Rashawal, Harry, Emu, Potter, Owi, Rendke.
That was beautiful.
I think my English isn't working with Polish very well.
Oh well. You tried.
So, yes.
No one can fault you for that.
I always try my best. Alrighty then, so there are going to be some changes coming about to Witch Weekly. I think I'll just do a really quick coverage of those. So Marissa and I did some talking. We've decided to start up a second podcast, which is not about Harry Potter. What it is about, you will find out shortly. As part of this, because then one podcast may have become like 4. Anyways, we've decided to, what's the word? Bring everything together. There's a good word for it though. But bring everything together, so we're starting M&M Podcast Network. So this, for Witch Weekly, I didn't want to affect it too much, because obviously Witch Weekly was created by Jess and I, is still part of, Jess still has like a hand in it. What will be changing is it will come under the network. It's going to keep its own Facebook page, as well as being on the network Facebook page, which will soon be established. For the moment, it'll continue to run out of Podbean. Future podcast channels won't, but I'll deal with that later. We're going to not be using the Tumblr. The Instagram is going to become a podcast network Instagram, and we're just going to change a few things around. But it should not affect the loveliness that you all love out of Witch Weekly. And I'll keep everyone up to date on the changes as we go. So as always, you can find us on Facebook. Still, we're keeping our Facebook. You can email us at witchweeklypodcast@gmail.com. We're on Twitter. The links can be found in the show description. And I think that's it, Marissa.
This sounds good to me.
Rightio, we will see you. Well, we won't, but you will hear us next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.